I remember very vividly, 13th December 2010 was my interview, and I lost my mom on 12th of December.
With this, I want to ask you, did you have a support system?
Then I don't have anyone to fall back on. I don't go home. There's nothing like a home for me. Where do I go home? I feel like I should give one chance to the armed forces. Should I be taking a chance? बैक टू बैक 2 SSB दी, दोनों रिकमेंडेशन हो गया. 3 महीने पहले मेरे पास ना माँ है, ना बाप है, ना भाई है, ना बहन, और 3 महीने बाद 3 जगह पे नौकरी है, बट फैमिली नहीं है. अंदर आके पता चला कि बाय गॉड ये फौज बहुत बड़ी.
Can I quickly ask your perspective on the new policy of Agniveer? How can we motivate people to consider a career in the armed forces?
Armed forces equip you with confidence. It equips you with thinking outside the box. It constantly forces you to remain calm and composed in extreme VUCA, under stress, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous exposure. They're constantly thinking outside the box. There is creative thinking, there is design thinking. This is what differentiates an armed forces officer or a personnel from any other.
So, as a GTO, what were the traits that you used to look for in a candidate?
Today, we are joined by a remarkable individual whose life story is one of resilience, purpose, and an unwavering commitment to service. Lieutenant Commander Nikhil KC. In this conversation, we dive into the transformative journey of Lieutenant Commander Nikhil from his days at NIT Srinagar to becoming a proud officer in the Indian Navy. We explore the personal tragedy of losing his mother, a loss that reshaped his life and strengthened his resolve to serve a higher purpose. In the absence of the family, he chose the military as his own, finding strength and belonging in his brotherhood. This episode is not just about his story, but also a treasure trove of guidance for aspiring officers. Lieutenant Commander Nikhil shares invaluable insights on the psychology required to lead as a commander, the crucial lessons candidates must imbibe for the Service Selection Board, also known as SSB, and what it takes to excel in each level of the rigorous tests. We also delve into his experience as a group testing officer at the SSB, where he observed firsthand what sets apart those who succeed from those who don't. Through his words, we also learn about why fewer young people are opting for the armed forces and why becoming an officer remains one of the most rewarding parts one in choose. Lastly, we uncover the biggest influence in Nikhil's life and what drives him, the lessons he's learned, and the values he holds dear to himself. So whether you're an aspiring candidate, a fan of military life, or simply someone looking for inspiration, this episode packed with insights and reflections you wouldn't want to miss. Let's dive into the extraordinary story of grit, leadership, and finding purpose in service. Without further ado, let's get started.
Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to take a quick moment and ask for a favor. We noticed that 93% of you who watch our content regularly aren't subscribed yet. My promise to you is simple. If you hit that subscribe button, we'll keep working hard to bring thought-provoking conversations, incredible guests, and the topics you really care about the most. It is practically free for you, but it makes a huge difference for us, helping us grow, reach more people, and bring even better content your way. Thank you for supporting. It means the world to us. Now let's get back to the video. Lieutenant Commander Nikhil Kumar Chandrakala. Welcome to Diary Publisher.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shivam.
Thank you so much for being a part of this. I appreciate you. To begin with, while we were discussing about your life story and your achievements, I was thinking, where should our conversation start today? And the best place to start is about your reason and your inspiration to join the armed forces.
Okay, before we actually jump there, the reason to join the armed forces. Actually, my reason was very simple, yaar. I would say this in Hindi. जिसका कोई नहीं होता ना, उसकी फौज होती है. So it started long back. See, I come from a very small town called as Yavatmal near Nagpur in Maharashtra. It's a district headquarters. And I studied until class 12th there. My mom brought me up single-handedly. She was an English teacher. My father left me when I was 2 years old. I mean, me and my mom, he parted ways. and then my mom had to bring me up single-handedly. Sorry. So she had to face a lot of constraints in terms of resources, in terms of her earning capability. So she had to go through a lot of ups and downs, and that's why I'm known by my mom's name. Chandrakala is my mother, because whatever I am today is because of her. तो काफ़ी मेहनत करके she made sure that I am imparted with quality education. So I studied in a convent, and the only reason I was given an admissions at 50% scholarship in that convent, the only convent of Yavatmal town, which is run by Sisters of Our Lady. It's an organization. Was that the reason was that I could read the Hitwad English daily fluently. And they were like, hey, we would want this student in our convent. We would want this child in our convent. And somehow I just did well because there's nothing else to be done. Just study and make sure that education is your future. Vidya dadati vinayam. Vinayam vinayati patratam. तो वो सब किया, and then after my class 12th, I had to take a drop here because I didn't have books, and I had to borrow books from my peer group and some of my seniors to actually study for the then AIEEE, All India Engineering Entrance Exam. And then I managed to get a good rank, state rank. I think my state rank was 143. I was getting quite a lot of NITs to study: NIT Bhopal, NIT Jalandhar, NIT Hamirpur, NIT Rourkela, and NIT Srinagar. For one particular reason, I went to NIT Srinagar because I wanted to study electrical engineering, and I was really fascinated with the then faculty of NIT Srinagar. That so learned people, people who are grads of IIT Delhi, people who've done their PhD from MIT, some people who have worked at Stanford, and some people who were research associates at TIFR, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, and even Vikram Sarabhai Space Center. So quite a learned lot. And I was like, यहीं पढ़ना है, बहुत पढ़े लिखे लोग हैं, इन्हीं से ज्ञान लेना है. So that's how I ended up in Kashmir, Srinagar. And while I was doing my engineering, तो NIT में बहुत standard है. After 3rd sem, 5th sem, 7th sem, you scout for internships. And you preferably scout for internships in those organizations which will give you preferably a PPO, pre-placement offer. Otherwise, there was a standard thing. Companies used to come for placements to college. But what happened in my case was because I was studying in Kashmir, I was exposed to a lot of Fauj, right? Kashmir Valley, right? Indian Army. There's Indian Navy also. For all of you who do not know, Marcos were present, Marine Commandos of the Indian Navy, the Special Forces. They're permanently based out of a place called as Wular Lake. Wular, Jhelum River Basin, Wular Lake. Headquarters 5 Sector RR. You must check up. So I happened to see them. मैंने कहा यार लाइफ तो यही है, 9 to 5 तो हो नहीं पाएगा, तो बहुत मुश्किल लग रहा है. And but then that was the last year 2010 when public sector undertakings were coming in to the colleges, IITs and NITs for the on-campus placement. And after that, I think then they started from 2011 or 12 recruitment through GATE. So I was supposed to appear for an interview for Bharat Petroleum Corporation, BPCL. Handsome package, yeah, 2010. If somebody is telling you 13 lakhs ka package as a GET in an oil company, 10-12 years down the line, so you are becoming a senior manager or a director or something like that. Yeah? Probably printing money in oil industry, move out into some other oil industry, maybe British Oil Corporation, something like that. So I remember very vividly, 13th December 2010 was my interview, and I lost my mom on 12th of December. And I had to leave that placement and go back to my home. The tickets, I remember, were sponsored by one of the colonels. He was a commanding officer of a local NCC battalion. So by then, by the virtue of staying in there in Kashmir, I had developed some connections with local, some officers who were posted there. Let's say the NCC officers, commanding officers of the NCC battalion. And through them, I got connected to the PRO, Public Relations Officer. उसका भी एक बड़ा story है यार. That's a very unique thing. And then I don't have anyone to fall back on. I don't go home. There's nothing like a home for me. Where do I go home? घर तो वो होगा ना जहाँ पे मेरी माँ है. अब वही नहीं है तो घर ही नहीं है. And it was just me and my mom all throughout my life. There was no support from mom के family से, and father तो थे ही नहीं. तो अब क्या करूँगा मैं? So this was one of the things which irked me very deeply. And that's when I decided कि there has to be a full thrust on armed forces. Because 9 to 5 करके तो वो कुछ मज़ा ही नहीं आ रहा था लाइफ में. And anyway I had lost the opportunity to get placed in a PSU. But by then, what was happening was I did my internship at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, TIFR, National Center for Radio Astrophysics, and I was working with a gentleman called as Professor Govind Swarup.
Wow.
So this guy, you must Google, he's a big man. Everybody in the radio astronomy world and even the most research institutes in our country would know who is Professor Govind Swarup. The biggest of the biggest echelons in the research world would know him. Specifically, TIFR would know him very well. So I was his research assistant. And I made a solar radio telescope with him. And that's the last time I saw my mom. Because my mom came to meet me at TIFR NCR in Pune. And she saw me and Professor Swarup working together. And he financed my final year project. He's like, whatever prototype you've developed, you know everything now. Now you go and reset this in college, submit your project, come back to me and join as my research associate here at NCRA. We'll scale this. So apparently he made giant meter wave radio telescope and OT radio telescope. He is a father of Indian radio astronomy.
Wow.
So then he went and of course he was a Harvard research associate and he was a professor at Stanford. So I was very fascinated. ये भी life है. My mom was like, हो गया तेरा career set. Now you don't have to worry about anything. She started crying. I don't have to worry about anything now. You've made a life for yourself. So I was like, all thanks to you because you were the disciplinarian who instilled the discipline in me. एंड ये विद्या का वैल्यू तो बचपन से ही है. मेहनत के बिना तो कुछ आया नहीं था आसानी से. दैट्स व्हेन शी told me that I can now pass away peacefully also. It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? चंदा भाई. I used to call her चंदा भाई. What the hell is wrong with you? अभी तो अपना टाइम स्टार्ट हुआ है. I worked with him for a year or two, go for my masters to Stanford. You also come with me because he only said that he'll write my LOR. I'll go there. And then I again have to come back and join TIFR only. No, you stay with me here only. So, and then one fine day I hear that she's no more. And she was my friend. She was a mother. I have not seen a woman as strong as she was till date in my life. I mean, I'm very, how would I say this? Am I lucky? पता नहीं मेरे पिछले जन्म में मैंने वो सोना या मोती दान किए होंगे तब जाके मेरे को ऐसी माँ मिली. इट्स व्हाट आई फील. एक चीज़ की कभी कमी नहीं होने दी मेरे को उन्होंने. और सबसे बड़ी चीज़ जो उन्होंने मेरे को दी है तो वो है संस्कार, चरित्र. तो दैट्स व्हाट हैपेंड. एंड देन after the last rites, after I finished my final year exams, I came back to TIFR. And I was like, I told Professor Swarup, my mom is no more. And he was shocked. अरे अभी 3 महीने पहले मिल के गई थी. So like, don't worry. You finish everything and you come back here. So I said, sir, I just want to attempt one chance. I feel like I should give one chance to the armed forces. Should I be taking a chance? Was that the bone in the contention? No. I said I should be giving Indian armed forces to one chance as a list of careers in my life. Because I had anyway a fallback option in terms of career. But I did not have family as such. And that's when I told him, he's like, what is wrong with you? Why do you want to join the Army, Navy or the Air Force? I said, sir, I want to become a fighter pilot. So he started laughing. He's like, is that so easy? No, sir, nothing is easy. Everything is difficult. Because I'm accustomed to control systems, so I feel this is very easy when I'm working with you. I can write code, I can do hardware. But if I don't taste, what is it? How will I feel कि होता क्या exactly? एक बार जाके आता हूँ. You give me 5 days छुट्टी. Very reluctant on giving me छुट्टी. So I said go. And because I was earning stipend there. 9,000 rupees was huge money those days as a student, you know. So I booked my tickets and I left. Wonder of the wonders, you know, it was a eureka moment for me. I got recommended. First ever SSB in my life. I went to Naval Selection Board Coimbatore and I got recommended. And then they took me for medical board. So I had to call Professor Swarup, sir, another 5 days more. Why? What happened? Sir, I got selected and now they want me to appear for the medical board also. So he says, why do I get a feeling that you are not coming back? I said, sir, no. After finishing this, I'll come back. Then I'll finish the thesis with you and then I'll go back to college. He said, no, I'm not talking about that. Why do I feel that after your degree, you're not coming back to TIFR? So I said, sir, we'll think about it. No, we'll talk about it. But let me come back. So he was the only elderly figure that I used to talk to my heart. That gentleman. And that man is a very big man. His work, he was called to India from Stanford when he was a professor there by Dr. Bhabha, H.J. Bhabha. Very big man, yeah, huge accomplishments. And he's talking to me like this, you know, to दोपहर को खाना खाने आता ना घर पे. There we will discuss what is to be done next and all of that. I'm a youngster, यार, 19-year-old. What do I understand? ठीक है. प्रोफेसर ने बुलाया है. गोविंद स्वरूप बहुत बड़ा नाम है, ये पता था. डिटेल्स नहीं पता था.
Are you still in touch with him?
No, he's no more.
He's no more.
And I cleared the medical board. Then I came back. And on my way back, I stopped in Allahabad Selection Center North because I had gotten one more call for the SSB of the Army. So Navy was Short Service Commission and Army was Permanent Commission. Again, I got recommended. Back to back 2 SSB दी, दोनों recommendation हो गया. Then I went back to college. 3 महीने पहले मेरे पास न माँ है, न बाप है, न भाई है, न बहन है और एक ही ray of hope to get a job, in a PSU, that was lost. ठीक है. और 3 महीने बाद I am recommended in the Army also, Navy also, and I have a confirmed job at TIFR also. With a proper, bright future, dedicated line of thought, master, Stanford, come back to TIFR, carry on work to develop solar radio telescope. Clear path, यही करना है. अब 3 जगह पे नौकरी है, but family नहीं है. So with a very heavy heart, I wrote a detailed email to Professor Swarup. It was very clear. Phone पे नहीं, it costs a lot. It used to cost 1.5 rupees per minute to call. I wrote a very detailed email to him, explaining my extenuating circumstances and things like that. So he said, don't worry. Go ahead, stay in touch. He just wrote only one thing. Don't worry, go ahead, stay in touch. And akkad bakkad Bombay bol, ऐसे करके somehow I chose to join the Navy in the executive cadre because I wanted to fly. Only executive branch can fly. And I was hell-bent. I want to become a fighter pilot. So that's how I ended up being in the Navy. और अंदर आगे पता चला कि बायगॉडी फौज बहुत बड़ी फैमिली है. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन यू. जब तुम उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में हो, what do you want to make the most out of during your time that you're spending in that organization? Forge is not a job. It's a service. Because you're serving. You're serving the masses, you're serving the countrymen. But it is a way of life.
True.
A lot of people are serving. Let's say here, you own a publishing house, right? You're also serving the people. You're bringing knowledge to them. But it is a way of life. Forge is a way of life. And as and when my time grew up, right, when I progressed in my career in the service, the family became bigger and bigger and bigger. उतने सारे नए लोग जुड़ते गए. So till date, like I keep telling my friends also, like we're discussing these days in our course group. Most of us are retired from service now. तो भारत का एक मैप है. इस मैप पे मेजर लोकेशंस में मैं जहाँ पे भी उंगली रखूँगा, I have a place to go. I have a home to go. This is what has happened with me. The best thing that has happened to me in the Navy, that I created a very big family. So does that answer the question? I don't know.
Nice. So it was your This story was quite inspiring as well. That's why I wanted to bring it out through our conversation, because people need to realize that, like you said, armed forces is a big family. Army, Navy, and Air Force, that they're seen as a different entity, but they're integrated in a long way.
Yeah.
With this, I want to ask you, did you have a support system when you joined the army? Did you have people to mentor you and guide you through make your decision making? Because you're a young kid right now, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, you're still young to make major decisions in life. But like you said, you had your professor before who used to mentor you. Did you have anyone else post that?
To be very honest, no. I would say Professor Govind Swarup was the only biggest guiding light in my life. I was connected to him through two of my professors at NIT Srinagar. There's a lady called as Dr. Semin Rubab. I hope she sees this. Dr. Semin Rubab, she was the one who connected me to TIFR, and eventually I got in touch there. And the person who taught me control systems was a gentleman called as Professor Nazir Ahmed Lavi. He's no more. He was my HOD. And he was the one, I named my final year project after him. I said that this solar radio telescope is Nazir Ahmed Lavi Solar Radio Telescope, still functioning at NIT Srinagar. It still works. Installed 14 years ago, but it still works. So, as a guiding light, it was just my mom and me. And whatever teachings she had imparted to me. कर्म वही करो जो करना ही फल लगे क्योंकि कर्म ही धर्म. This is the biggest thing that I have learned. सोना जितना जलता है उतना ज़्यादा चमकता है.
सोना जितना
जलता है उतना ज़्यादा चमकता है. If you want to shine like a sun, first burn like a sun. So these are the things, and as very clear, you see, maturity is an index of experiences in life. It is not an index of age. So that clarity of thought came in very early during my tenure in NIT. It has to be either a research institute or it has to be something adventure filled, something thrill. Because चारों तरफ फौज दिख रही है, आर्मी है. नेवी में देखा तो जहाज नहीं देखे, नेवी की स्पेशल फोर्सेस देखी. They are the deadliest Marcos in the world. I don't know if you know this, but when Barack Obama came to India, it was his personal choice that his security detail would be done by Marcos and not anyone else. Then जो TIFR के stipends है, for the first time ever in my life, खुद के पैसे से I bought a flight ticket. Otherwise, जब श्रीनगर जाना होता था तो you take a train from Nagpur. यवतमाल नागपुर is 4 hours. उस ज़माने के roads, उस ज़माने के vehicles, 4 घंटे धक्के खाते खाते you come there. And then from there, नागपुर से 2.5 दिन ट्रेन में बैठ के you come to जम्मू तभी. And फिर वहाँ से सुमो में बैठ के, you would be going in that road 300 किलोमीटर जम्मू to श्रीनगर. That was a travel.
Yeah.
So I was like, यार दिल्ली से फ्लाइट से जा सकते हैं क्या? Somehow. दिल्ली तक ट्रेन से चले जाते हैं, फिर दिल्ली से डायरेक्ट जम्मू एंड श्रीनगर. अगर इतना पैसा थोड़ा सा मिल गया, ये ट्रैवल मेरा ख़त्म हो जाएगा. इतनी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें होती थी तब लाइफ में. तो आई लैंडेड ऑन द श्रीनगर एयरपोर्ट एंड आई सी लेफ्ट एंड राइट में छोटे छोटे एयरक्राफ्ट से लेके ये फाइटर एयरक्राफ्ट होते हैं. लाइफ में पहली बार देखे. यवतमाल में क्या पता है यार, ना आर्मी का ये है, ना एयरफोर्स का AF है, या फिर नेवी का एन तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. मैंने कहा यार ये होता है, ये उड़ा सकते हैं, ये ज़्यादा अच्छा लग रहा है, इसको उड़ाने में क्या लगेगा. आई यूज्ड टू थिंक लाइक दिस, इसको उड़ाने में क्या लगेगा, व्हाट डू आई नीड टू डू ताकि आई कैन सिट ऑन इन दैट कॉकपिट. देन यू आर रिसर्चिंग कॉलेज इंटरनेट पे, join the Indian Air Force, join the Indian Navy, join the Indian Army, different entries. What are the different kinds of entries to join these services as an officer? Today, it is humongous boom in information era. .com era, and then boom into the information era.
True.
With advent of AI and ML as well.
True.
But फिर भी in a place like Kashmir, जहाँ पे हड़ताल, बंद, no access to the internet, limited access to the internet, connectivity issues. उसके बीच में, I still remember how I posted my form. I had to step out with one of my friends who also wanted to join the army. He and I stepped out in curfew. And we had to borrow a scooter from one of our friends, Ladakhi guys. That scooter didn't have a साइड का साइड स्टैंड, तो निषाद गार्डन के सामने गन पॉइंट पे रोक दिया CRP फॉलो ने। यार हम दिखा रहे हैं NIT स्टूडेंट्स, हम देने जा रहे हैं, फॉर्म पोस्ट करे जा रहे हैं। फॉर्म पोस्ट करने के लिए रिक्वेस्ट किया था 1JNK के NCC के CEO को। कैसे? पता नहीं, मालूम नहीं, कुछ नहीं। तो ये आर्मी का कुछ दिख रहा है, अंदर चलते इनको पूछ लेते कि हमें ये हेल्प चाहिए। इसी को बोलते हैं फैमिली। पीपल यू डू नॉट नो, तुम उनको जानते नहीं, पहचानते नहीं। तुमने बोला मेरे को ये करके चाहिए, ये हेल्प चाहिए, हम यहाँ से आते हैं, हमें ये करना है। इतना सा आप कैटलिस्ट वाला कुछ काम कर दोगे क्या? उसी से रिश्ते बनते हैं।
True.
आई एम स्टिल इन टच विद दोज गाइज, द देन PRO ऑफ PRO डिफेंस श्रीनगर, the CEO of 1JNK NCC Naval Unit, Captain Aziz Ahmed Loan. I'm still in touch with them, still. In fact, they were the ones who sponsored my tickets to go back home when I had to attend to the last rites of my mother. And then I returned, after I got commissioned, when I got paid, then I returned the money. So he's like, sir, tab Nikhil ne liya tha, but now Sub-Lieutenant Nikhil is returning the money.
No.
So like, that's one of the proudest things that they have heard.
Beautiful.
That they banged on the right guy is what they felt.
Beautiful. So you got a lot of conditioning from your mom is what I try to understand.
Yeah.
Because in terms of making a mindset, a strong man like yourself, it's your mom who got you to it.
She was a one-woman army, no? If she is one-woman army, then I can also be a one-man army, right?
To understand that deeper, you said you were selected at 2 SSB. You were recommended at 2 SSB boards. One was for the Navy and one for the Army. What would you say that Nikhil had, the kind of traits that Nikhil had that made him get recommended at both the boards?
Yeah, one thing I would say is absolute clarity of thought, what I want to do in my life. Okay. Very clear. This is what I want to do. At this particular age, at that particular maturity, very, very clear. The understanding of what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses. Insight about yourself. And the third thing is, I would say the skill set that I'm bringing to the table, what am I giving to the Army, Navy and the Air Force? It's not about you taking out of the organization. What are you giving to the organization? With your presence in the organization, how easier it is for the organization to achieve organizational objectives and organizational growth in a particular billet that you would be posted in after you get commissioned as an officer. So the skill set. So absolute clarity of thought, never give up attitude, very strong reasoning ability, because I have a habit of reading. I had a knack of reading a lot of books outside the engineering syllabus. Whatever you study, BA, BCom, BSc, BTech, whatever you've done, इसके अलावा जो तुम पढ़ते हो, that defines you as a person. Not the knowledge is not just a degree. Anything and everything which you're reading outside, what you eat is what you become. What you read defines your character. तो आई हैड अ नैक ऑफ रीडिंग अ लॉट ऑफ बुक्स। बचपन से ही था, मम्मी ने इनकलकेट किया था। हितवाद न्यूज़पेपर, जनरल नॉलेज टुडे, GK रिफ्रेशर, प्रतियोगिता, दर्पण, इंडिया टुडे, रीडर्स डाइजेस्ट। माय मॉम यूज्ड टू रीड रीडर्स डाइजेस्ट। सो दैट रीजनिंग एबिलिटी very strong sense of responsibility, absolute clarity of thought, and never give up attitude. Because standing there in front of the SSB telling them, neither do I have mom, nor do I have dad, nor do I have siblings. Now, I am asking the question to the interviewing officer, is this a problem for you, whether you want to get me in or not? Like, will you recommend me or not? Just because I don't have parents and family? He said, no. So then I told him, I thought that Fauj itself is a one big family, right? Because people leave their families and come together, and that becomes a family. So I'm like, sir, I thought this is the reason. Then he asked me, what happens if you don't get recommended? I said, no problem. I have a job here at TIFR. I'll go and work there. So he said, you will not come back again. So I said, I don't know if I have it in me right now, then I'll get in. What suddenly will change within me that कि ऐसा क्या होगा कि इंजेक्शन भर दूंगा, कुछ एक नया जादू हो जाएगा कि उसके बाद थोड़े दिन बाद मैं फिर से आऊँगा यहाँ पे और फिर मैं रिकमेंड हो जाऊँगा? ये तो या तो है या तो नहीं है ना। आपका कुछ एक स्किल सेट का डिमांड है, अगर वो मैं ला रहा हूँ टेबल पे, तो यू विल टेक मी इन. तो इट वॉज नो नॉनसेंस एटीट्यूड ऑल्सो. This matters a lot in operations in the Army, Navy and the Air Force.
That's what at SSB they look for leadership qualities and like you said, clarity of thought as well. That you know that like you said to them, you first of all, you ask them questions as well. You're not nervous about getting selected or not. You're not,
Yeah.
you have an option to go for as well.
It was not that key. I am very frank or I am very upfront or I am very straightforward because I had an option somewhere else. It was not that. It is more related to the upbringing. I'm not wasting my time here. I came here for 5 days. As much as I want to be into the armed forces is also looking for right talent. Right?
True.
Right? So it is both ways. I am not going to waste somebody's time just eating their free का राशन and doing nothing. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता ना, क्योंकि वहाँ पे मेरे को किसी ने बुलाया है, तो अगर वो मुझे कुछ भी करने का आदेश या इंस्ट्रक्शन दे रहा है तो मैं उसमें अपना 100 नहीं, मैं अपना 1000% डालूंगा. तभी तो वो पता चल के आएगा ना कि ओरिजिनलिटी है कि नहीं है. तो द फिफ्थ थिंग दैट आई एम पुटिंग ऑन द टेबल इज ओरिजिनलिटी. These are the reasons people get selected by the services selection board, and these are the kind of people we want as officers in the Indian Army and even the Air Force.
With this story, we will be coming back to SSB.
Yeah.
But let's go through SSB now. You got in through SSB. You selected Navy as your career. How did your career go? Since it was a short staff as well.
Yeah. So Top Gun spoiled my life, to be very honest. And like I mentioned, the other guy who I traveled with to post my forms. He served in Special Forces. He served in NSG. Still a serving officer in the Special Forces in the Army. Will not take a name because he's serving. So he kept telling me until the last day. We used to play football and volleyball together. I में चल यार निखिल, I में चल, वहाँ चल के फुटबॉल खेलेंगे. ठीक है, we'll aim to get into the same battalion, try to get into the same company, कुछ जुगाड़ लगाएंगे. But यार तू आ यार, नहीं यार, Top Gun, fighter pilot यार, please. I did not have any idea that Short Service Commission Executive Branch is meant for watchkeeping at sea. And because there is a Short Service Commission Aviation Pilot entry अलग से, specific in the Navy, तो वो लोग ही pilots बनते हैं. And executive branch वाले pilots नहीं बनेंगे. They are supposed to man the ships. ये मुझे पता नहीं था. Although I asked somebody in the headquarter, written a चिट्ठी, written mail, call them. कश्मीर से और क्या ही करूँगा. अब मेरे कोई बाप दादा तो है नहीं फौज में, तो पूछ लिया. तो बोला हाँ एग्जीक्यूटिव ब्रांच वाले जा सकते हैं. That's why I came in. Little did I have the information, तो I would have joined the army. But ये मुझे पता नहीं था उस टाइम पे.
The Army also has a fleet of...
Army has Army Aviation. You can opt for aviation after you get inside, but then you're only chopper pilots because Army doesn't have fixed wing.
Okay.
Fixed wing is only with the Air Force and the Navy, and fighters only Air Force and the Navy. And like they say, the world's finest fighter pilots, naval fighter pilots. Sullenberger. I don't know if you've seen the movie, Sullenberger. You should see the movie. Captain Sullenberger. The US Navy fighter pilot who landed his aircraft on Hudson River Bay to save all 170-80 lives on board because the landing gear failed and there was a bird hit. And then found out that guy was a fighter pilot of US Navy. So, yeah, I mean, Sully. Coolness in action and calmness in crisis. An example. So, life well lived. Navy was this. Very beautiful. I got commissioned in July 2011. And then I went on to join Western Fleet on a fleet ship called as INS Ganga. Not in service anymore. It's decommissioned now. It was a steamship frigate.
Okay.
And very beautiful time working with Israelis on weapon systems because weapon systems upgrade हुए थे. And done a lot of watchkeeping, Middle East operations, operated with UK Navy, Sri Lankans, Omani, Egyptians, and Indonesians, based out of Bombay.
Tell me a little about the joint collaborations with other countries.
Everybody brings their own set of practices on the table. All that you are supposed to do is you are supposed to maximize the positive impact that you're trying to create in a strategic place of operation. Let's say that it's Indian Ocean region. It's very simple. You see, this is India. I don't know how to show this. This is India. You have Sri Lanka here. You have Middle East here. And this is the Eastern world. The oil that goes to the Western world goes through Suez Canal.
Yeah.
anything that goes to the eastern world has to come through Arabian Sea, take a roundabout of Sri Lanka, go through Malacca Strait, and
Malacca
then
Strait.
goes to the eastern world. We are sitting right here in the center. So we are essentially controlling more than, I would say, 40 to 60%, about 40 to 60%.
40%, yeah.
40 to 60% of sea lanes of communication, SLOC, for anything and everything that goes into the eastern world. You know, we can literally choke everybody. And we have the 5th largest navy in the world. And I was sitting in Western Fleet Swadam of the Indian Navy. I have literally seen thousands and thousands of things happening there.
What kind of things?
In terms of
Piracy?
piracy, anti-piracy was exposed a little bit because now the piracies come even until Mauritius from Gulf of Aden. How merchantmen are so comfortable with warships being around them, friendly foreign nations. They don't have to worry about their transit.
Yeah.
Because we are there. One of the things, सात संदेश करके होता था पहले भारतीय नौसेना के जो key deliverables है in terms of corporate world, right? What do we do as a navy in peacetime? So one of the things was defending the deep water channel, DWC, because all the Gujarat ports पे जो भी ships जाते हैं, they have to transit through a corridor called as DWC corridor, because the draft of the ship is very high.
True.
So you need deep water channel for ro-ros or tankers, extra large tankers, VL tankers, very large tankers.
True.
तो उनके जाने के transit के लिए. But that's also the place where the ingress from boats can happen. Boats are submarines. So forward deployments. You're permanently placed at some few locations in Gujarat or in and around Gujarat, defending IMBL, International Maritime Boundary Line. Joint operations with BSF, Border Security Force, because peace time में borders की रखवाली करना BSF का काम है. So same is applicable here also, Sir Creek. So life was really intriguing. Learned a lot of things. Joint operations, fisheries, marine police, coast guard, air force, army, joint operations. And then there's a time I came in my life, I became ADC. It's also called as flag lieutenant. Flag lieutenant is somebody who's like a right hand of the admiral. There are only 12 people. Then it used to be 12, now it is I think 13, 14. 12 people who could become flag lieutenants of the admirals. And basically I was looking after strategic theatre level operations along with learning about them along with the admiral commanding Maharashtra and Gujarat naval area. And after that I became a commanding officer, captain of a warship called as INISV Tango 15, Indian Naval Immediate Support Vessel Tango 15, and the 81st Immediate Support Vessel Squadron I was squadron commander. And there were 3 squadrons in Bombay and I was a senior officer of all 3 squadrons. So essentially I had 16 officers and 102 men under my administrative and operational command. So this squadron is very unique because 26/11 के बाद they realized that if something of this sort were to happen, because they came in from that route, were to happen in the ODA, oil field development areas, and you should have a dedicated force
True.
to actually take care of the security of your assets in the ODA, oil field development areas. So they wanted a dedicated force. And by hook or by crook, I don't know why, but this landed up into the Navy's lap for whatever reasons. I'm not sure. I think when the decision happened, I think Admiral Suresh Mehta was the chief. And then ONGC happened to make these boats, the fast attack crafts, the ships, and handed over to the Navy. And Navy was tasked to operate them and ensure seamless perimeter defense in ODA. So I was one of the first lot to actually get into that operations and write a standard operating procedure. It's called tackling asymmetric threats in hydrocarbon environment. It's an SOP. So India Today TV had come on my ship to shoot a documentary about that. You can see that on YouTube. It's available. Did that for 19 months. wonderful learning, huge command. Like when you have 16 officers under your command, you're like one of the richest commanding officers in the Navy. 16 officers, 102 men, so many assets, and doing something which was 0 to 1, never been done before in the Navy. Navy is blue water. You are blue water, like you're going way away from your mainland, and you're capturing or you're destroying the enemy, and then you're coming back. Support system for the army and things like that. This is very different. The tempo of operations is very high, and the threat to life is very high. And your notice to motoring is 15 minutes. मतलब 15 minutes में all ships out at sea. Whereas a steamship or any other ship would take notice to motoring 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours. पूरा कॉम्प्लीमेंट साथ में आएगा, हथियार, गोला, बारूद, फ्यूल, राशन, खाना पीना सब लोड होने के बाद 2-1.5 घंटे में बड़ा जहाज बाहर निकलेगा. तो 15 मिनट में यू आर आउट एट सी. फास्ट ऑपरेशंस. डिड दैट फॉर 19 months. उसके बाद द फुल सर्कल हैपेंड इन माई लाइफ. अगेन वी कम बैक टू SSB. So then I became a GTO.
GTO for SSB.
Group Testing Officer. So, for all the viewers who know and who do not know, Indian Armed Forces is an organization in which if you want to become an officer, the only door that you have to cross is Services Selection Board.
That's a common factor in all these armed forces.
Yes, it's a common factor. You write exams, you don't write exams. There are various different types of entries to become an officer in the Army, Navy and the Air Force. Written exam, non-written exam, UPSC entries, non-UPSC entries. But the ultimate gate is SSB. अगर आप SSB clear नहीं कर रहे हो तो आप officer नहीं बन रहे हो. And this is there since 1941. 1941. Why am I saying this? Because War Office Selection Board set up in UK for recruitment of officers for the Royal Army, Navy and the Air Force when they were falling short in World War II. Same thing percolated post-independence to us, which was the then Psychological Research Wing, today's Defense Institute of Psychological Research, and the SSBs in India. तो WSB, SSB में कन्वर्ट हुआ इंडिया में. तो ये तो टाइम टेस्टेड मेथड है.
हाँ जी.
तो ये चेंज हुआ नहीं है. ये तो जैसा का वैसा ही है. जो मैंने SSB दी या आपने जितने ऑफिसर से इंटरेक्ट किया है, सिस्टम चेंज नहीं हुआ है, सिर्फ आउटलुक चेंज हुआ है. बिकॉज डेमोग्राफी चेंज हुई है देश की. जनरेशनल गैप आया है. यू कम फ्रॉम Gen X to Y to Z to Alpha, late millennials, early millennials.
Yeah.
So the mindset changed, right? लोगों का.
What has changed? The mindset.
तो थोड़ा बहुत mindset.
Of the applicants you're talking about.
Correct, yeah, applicants.
No, but the model of the examination remains the same.
Correct. खाली SSR का देखने का नज़रिया चेंज हुआ है. हमने सिस्टम को चेंज नहीं किया है. हमने अपने प्रिंसिपल्स को चेंज नहीं किया है. Attributes of military leadership, definition of officer like qualities, हमारे minimum acceptable level, कैसे लोग हमें अंदर डालने हैं in terms of leadership attributes into training at NDA, IMA, AFA, OTA, INA, ये change नहीं किया है.
That remains the same.
That remains the same. वो time tested method है. That's the same method which is given you Captain Manoj Pandey, Captain Vikram Batra, Major Sudhir Walia, Captain Ajay Jasrotia. How many names should I take? All of them. All of us have come through the same system. So ये तो time tested method है.
There's not I see in a population like ours, we have a population of 1.5 billion Indians. There is lack of awareness on how one can join the armed forces.
See, I'll tell you, rough numbers are rough. Maths don't lie. Let's say, let's do the math. 150 crores average population India का. Eligible criteria as per the age. 16.5 से 27 people who can join the NDA, or after their 10+2 until the latest that they can join
as officers.
27 engineers. So 16.5 से 27 की जो age group है, it's about 40 to 45%. So let's say about 60 crores, 65 crores. Like on a lower limit, 65 crores पकड़ सकते हैं. 65 crore people are eligible as far as the age is concerned to become officer. अब इसके ऊपर लगाते educational qualifications. तो let's cut short 10% पकड़ते 6.5 crore लोग, right? 6.5 crore people in terms of age and educational qualifications are eligible to become officers. बट सारे के सारे 6.5 करोड़ तो इंटरेस्टेड नहीं होंगे ना. समबडी लाइक यू वुड बी लाइक आई वांट टू डू एन MBA इन UK or something like that. अगर मैं 10% भी पकड़ूं तो भी 65 लाख हुआ. जो बोलते हैं कि हम जाने के इच्छुक है, हमें फौज जाना था, ऑफिसर बनना था, हम बन नहीं पाए, वॉट एवर, 65 लाख एटलीस्ट. हमारे देश में 21 सर्विसेज सिलेक्शन बोर्ड्स है एंड एक अगर मैं एवरेज नंबर लूँ कि एक साल में कितने लोग SSB AFSB देने आते. AFSB इज एयरफोर्स सिलेक्शन बोर्ड इन अक्रॉस ऑल 21 बोर्ड्स ऑफ द आर्मी, नेवी एंड द एयरफोर्स. The number will be somewhere between 1.5 to 1.8 लाख. ये हायर नंबर ही बोल रहा हूँ मैं. अगर मैंने 65 लाख में से 1.5 लाख मैनेज भी कर दिया, 63.5 लाख पीपल तो आर स्टिल नॉट टर्निंग अप फॉर द SSB. दे डोंट नो होता क्या है, कैसे होता है, बस देखते हैं हाँ यार आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स मुझे भी ज्वाइन करना था. यू विल फाइंड सो मेनी पीपल. आई ऑल्सो वॉन्टेड टू ज्वाइन द आर्मी बट मैं नहीं कर पाया, मुझे पता नहीं था उसके बारे में. बट when you look at those people, na, we perfectly fine, you'll find out यार ये बंदा इतना अच्छा अफसर बन सकता था, something like that. So yes, people do not know. In major pockets of our country, अभी भी लोगों को पता नहीं है exactly SSB होता क्या है and officers कैसे बनते हैं आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स में. Still, the information is not there.
How can we motivate people to consider a career in the armed forces?
It's a life very extraordinary. So once you find out what's the kind of life it is, then they'll be like, oh, जिंदगी का 5 साल 10 साल तो आर्मी को देना चाहिए. And that's how it should be, you know. Short service commission, go serve for 10 years, obtain that skill set which is going to make you the man or that confident man or woman you are, and then explore your career in some another.
Right. Can I quickly ask a perspective on the new policy of Agniveer? Because that's related to the numbers that we're talking about right now.
So Agniveer are actually Jawans, right? So I would say it's good. There's nothing wrong in that. You want to keep your armed forces young. And at the same time, a person who is as old as 16 and a half or 17 or 18 comes to an organization and gets paid. How many of them are getting paid if they are not Agniveers at the age of 16 and a half, 17 or 18? An organization is paying you some money. You're in the system for 5 years. Then you have options to continue, or other avenues are also open to you. You also have option to continue with your bachelor's while within the system. You have MOUs with IGNU and things like that. These are those people जिनके पास में कोई अर्निंग पोटेंशियल ही नहीं था, बट आप फौज में आकर के जो स्किल सेट सीख के जाओगे, that skill set has a lot of value. Degrees, universities, colleges, they don't have value. Skill set has value. I'm talking about that skill set that guy is going to gain, and after that he steps out after 5 years. It is going to arm him with so much of skill set and confidence that he can figure out a job for himself after getting out of the organization as well. And that's what Mr. Anand Mahindra says. I'm open to hiring Agniveers in my manufacturing facilities after they come out. That was a statement by him. So we're talking about the skill set. यहाँ पे skill set की बात करते हैं, अपने आप को सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंट बनाने की बात करते हैं. They've not done something like what Israel or countries like Taiwan or South Africa has, compulsory military service. But if you ask me, I'm a proponent of compulsory military service for everybody.
True.
होना चाहिए ये.
True.
Not only just me, there's a gentleman called as Nana Patekar. He also spoke in that movie. He's a para commando in one of the movies. He gives that. There's a statement by him. Compulsory military service for everybody, right?
That becomes difficult in a country like India because of our large demographic, our population, and
that's correct. It's difficult in our country, but
it would be ideal for sure to train and discipline the civilian of our country, which is lacking at the moment. But of course, the armed forces can, maybe find some policy that would be closer to that.
वो तो MP का गेम है. Too early to talk about all these things. It's a MP manning plan का गेम है ये बहुत बड़ा. But yes, if it is made compulsory, then बहुत सारी चीज़ें बदल जाएंगी हमारे देश में. Armed forces equip you with confidence. It equips you with thinking outside the box. It constantly forces you to remain calm and composed in extreme VUCA. under stress, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous exposure है.
Mhm.
You're constantly thinking outside the box. There is creative thinking, there is design thinking.
Mm.
And the bigger the responsibility, the bigger the challenge, the more the stress, and the more the risk, the more the reward. And that's how people come out. This is what differentiates an armed forces officer or a personnel from any other person.
True. Can we quickly talk about a little more about SSB examination, because there's some misconceptions about the exam, the board. It's a 5-day test. Can you run us through the 5 days?
See, it's a very simple thing. 5-day selection systems divided into 2 different stages. Stage 1, OIR test, Officer Intelligence Reading Skill Test. It's a test of your mental ability, perception of relationships, verbal, non-verbal reasoning. And then you have picture perception and description test. A simple picture is shown to you on a screen where you're supposed to write some story. The story has something like what led to the situation, what is happening now, what is the most likely outcome.
Okay.
Very simple thing, PPDT. And then your result of OIR and your performance in PPDT is assessed by the board before they make up their mind in recommending you for the stage 2, which is the detailed assessment. Now, PPDT may we just try to check your content, perception, mannerism, confidence, expression, and participation. These are 6 attributes that we check when we are assessing you on PPDT. And then the detailed testing में 3 different types of tests are there. The psychologist, he imparts the psych test. The interviewing officer conducts a semi-structured interview with you.
Okay.
And then there is a GTO, group testing officer. He conducts group situational tasks with you. It's not a group test, it's group situational task. So all these 3 assessors, they have their own methodology of testing. Psych test is a structured test. Thematic apperception test, some pictures shown and you're writing stories. Again, the same thing, past, present, future. Some words, you're writing sentences. Some situation reaction test, incomplete situations, and you're supposed to respond with the first response that comes to your mind if you were to be in that kind of a situation.
Got it.
And then self-description as to what your friends think about you, mother thinks about you, your teachers or your employees think about you. What do you think about yourself, and what would you like to be in your life?
Right.
Then
So, as a GTO, what were the traits that you used to look for in a candidate?
See, not only the GTO, but the interviewing officer and the psychologist, we look for originality. Like I said, when you were asking me about my SSB,
Your traits, yeah.
it doesn't change. We are looking at something which is called as originality. We are looking for never give up attitude. We are looking for very strong reasoning ability. That means your situational awareness has to be really high.
Okay.
Well spoken, well read, well behaved. Well behaved, वहीं से आता है sense of responsibility. We are looking for these things, that's all. इतना है तो it works on something which is called as behavior consistency principle. अगर आज तक ये किया है, आगे भी यही करोगे.
True. It
like
becomes like a chain.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would like to ask you, since SSB is an examination to assess leaders, if I'm rightly saying
That's
that,
right. Yeah.
you have interacted with me in a very short time frame. How would you assess Shivam Arya as a leader, as someone, as a GTO you'd be looking for? Because you've interacted with me shortly. A call, then a short interaction before a podcast, now the podcast. How do you assess me as a leader?
You want me to give you a scale or something?
No, just tell me your thought process, your psyche in terms of your answer towards it. Just and be honest, please be honest. I would like some.
I would say you're doing a wonderful job here. I can see that you're running an organization which was set up about 25, 30 years ago. Well-read, well-educated. Looks like very strong reasoning ability, of course. You also have the thirst to learn and acquire more knowledge, because continuous improvement and continuous learning is a part and parcel of your leadership.
Right.
So I can see that that's there in you, continuous improvement, which will help you sharpen your skills further. You're humble, looks like you're grounded, and I think you have that sense of responsibility towards the organization which your fathers and forefathers have built, and sense of responsibility towards the society that you're trying to bring out and bring out that knowledge in front of them, which you also, I think, keep an interest in, strategic geopolitical issues. I think that's where this press, Pentagon press, right,
Yes.
is very, very centric about geopolitical analysis.
Mhm.
And that's your personal interest as well, right?
Right.
So I think you're very close to your Kaizen.
Thank you very much. Where could I learn and improve my current setup or my current thirst for learning or my leadership qualities?
Ah, um,
I mean, you haven't known me for a long time, but
Yeah.
as a GTO, that's the role that you play as well, to assess situations and individuals.
I mean, if I were to just give one input to you, why don't you do some case studies of the biggest publishing houses in the world, right? Who have taken the onus of publishing books by biggest authors, whether in fiction or non-fiction, and how they have scaled the business from just being national at one point of time or very, very regional at one point of time to going global. If you were to do some kind of a case study, some HBS review, Harvard Business, or probably ISB Business, I think this would help you in scaling this org very well in the near future.
Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. You boosted my ego, but that was the reason for it, was to just understand the thought process of where I stand. Anyway, to end this conversation, I know this has been a very quick one with us.
Yeah.
I make sure to ask my guests 2 personal questions, if you allow me. I've been asking a lot of personal questions, but 2 more.
Yeah, please.
One is that what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, to a younger Nikhil who hasn't seen the world that you've seen now and haven't experienced the world like you have? Someone who's in similar shoes as you and would want to learn from you, what advice would you give them?
Even though there were, even though I was in thick of operations, I went a little away from professional studies before I could pick up my second degree. After my bachelor's, I had done master's. There was quite a lot of gap. I would tell my younger self that at any cost, continue education as much as you can at the earlier ages. Don't waste time there. You have to augment your skill set with right degrees and right education as well at times when you're stepping into the corporate world, or if you're trying to build something of your own. So there's quite a lot of gap between my first bachelor's and the second master's. So, and of course, service kept me a lot busy, but then it depends on you. So I would tell my younger self, you should not have put that 5-year gap. You should have taken the second degree quicker, faster. So I would tell that to my younger self. That's one piece of advice.
Does that education still, feels important in today's time when there's so much information and there's so much, knowledge from the online you can gather as well?
If you're smart enough to differentiate between what is right and what is wrong, then there are so many YouTube channels which will teach you better business than a B school and MBAs.
Yeah.
And I was just going through one of the reels, Uncle Scrooge, the millionaire who used to dive into that coin wala thingy, that cartoon. He taught the value of money and how money grows. It should circulate. He keeps telling that money should circulate. If you keep it at one place stationary, it stagnates. It loses its value. So you have to circulate the money. That's the first thing you learn in a B school.
Yeah.
So
no, from the statement that you said that if you can differentiate between right or wrong, how do you differentiate between right and wrong?
That's where you need somebody who is senior to you in terms of age and experience.
A guidance.
You need a guide. So.
And you had that in terms of your mother, and then the professor.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And I had picked up my master's in psychological degree after I became a GTO. I should have picked up that degree before I became a GTO is what I was trying to tell myself. Should have picked up that degree a little earlier.
Nice.
Yeah.
To end this conversation, this podcast is called Diary of a Publisher, and I make sure to ask my guest a question based on a book. So if there's a book that you wish you would have read earlier in life, which book would that be?
I wish I had read earlier.
Yeah. Change your perspective on life. Any book that you read and change your perspective.
Yes. There's a very beautiful book that I read. It's called as Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one of the book I would I mean, I wish I had read that book really, really. बहुत पहले पढ़ लिया होता है ये book को.
You want to tell us a little about the book?
It's about how do you kill negative reinforcement.
Since it's Joe Dispenza, I'm sure it's all about psyche, mind, and
so
spirituality as well.
The psychology part, right? So मेरे अंदर से psychology जाता नहीं है. So people tend to self-harm themselves. Overthinking, depression, anxiety. होता क्या है ये? Depression, anxiety, overthinking, और self-harming. Mental health के terms में, right? Self-harming. ये इसलिए होता है because we are not ready to accept what is there as a truth. वो acceptance आने में जितना हमें समय लगता है ना, उस समय को हम बोलते हैं ये हमारा healing period है, जब तक हम उसको accept नहीं कर लेते. And constantly we are harming our mental health in that duration. So this book is more about how you quickly get out of that thing and get onto the pathway of manifesting something which is in your best interest, but by yourself. तो तुम खुद ही कैसे करोगे? How will you reset or how you reprogram or how you reinstall your operating system?
Got it.
तो ये book उसके बारे में ज़्यादा है. तो
Nice.
this is something I think I should have read a little bit earlier in my life.
Lovely.
Yeah.
This has been a very inspiring conversation for me,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Commander NKC. Thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with you. Hope to have you over soon again. I'm sure audience has had a lot to take away as well.
Thank you so much for having me here, and wish you all the very best, not only for your podcast but also for the publishing house.
Thank you very much. We at DOAP are working really hard to take this podcast to the next level. Our guests are going to get even better. Our production quality is going to get even better. And hopefully, I'm going to get even better too. Most importantly, we are committed to being consistent and continue to do what we love the most. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you. Jai Hind.